YouTube channel. Today in this video we will discuss the strategy for the last 1 month for NEET 2023. This video basically consists of two parts. In first part we will discuss what should be our strategy in this last 1 month regarding study, and in the second part we will discuss what should be our strategy during the 3 hours of exam in the exam hall. So let's begin. Now firstly comes to the biology. For the biology, our discussion will be in two parts. First is the study part and second one is the solving MCQs. First, regarding study, we have to read the NCERT lines very carefully. The whole of the biology textbook for NCERT should be read very carefully, line by line, and the important points should be highlighted. And we know that in case of NCERT, both sides of the pages, on both sides of the written page, there are some blank space, empty space, and we have to utilize those blank space by reading by writing the most important points of the particular page. And this is very helpful, because on the next time while we can do the revision on this particular page, we have to not so carefully focus for the whole page, because we have already sorted out the important points on the both side of the written facts in the blank spaces. That is quite easy to save our time and also help in our memorization. Regarding the solving MCQs, there are two parts. First, solving the previous year question, and second, solving a new sort of question. Solving previous year question is very much important. Our main focus should be on that. During the solving of the previous year questions, we have to see what are the mistakes that we usually do. Then note down the mistakes in a separate copybook, highlight them, and again when we have to, you will go to practice the MCQs. Before solving MCQs, see those highlighted mistakes, so that each time you see the highlighted mistakes, your mistakes should be minimized and your confidence should be boosted up. Thus, by seeing the highlighted mistakes, next time you do the MCQs, you definitely will reduce your mistakes and your marks should be improved. And you can do also a new sort of question if you like, but this is not mandatory, because if you have focused on the previous year question, that is quite sufficient. But you for your own interest, you can also do some new sort of questions, but that time should be minor, and thus majority of your focus should be on the solving the previous year questions. First, practice them, note the mistakes separately in notebook, highlight them, again see, then you will do the new sort of questions. Thus, through this important cycle, you can minimize your mistakes and maximize your marks in biology. Now comes for chemistry. For chemistry, there are three parts: physical chemistry, inorganic chemistry, and the organic chemistry. For physical chemistry, we have to solve the previous year questions, problem-based facts, and we have to note the important shortcuts or formula that we generally utilize during our problem solving, because this is they are very useful regarding solving the MCQs. They basically save our time. So we have to make a chart by our own hand, all the necessary formulas and the shortcuts regarding solving those problems. They are much helpful, and you can also paste the charts basically in front of your study table, revise them while you're studying again and again. This will help you definitely to memorize those problems, and also you can apply those problems while solving your questions. For the inorganic portion, you have to do nothing much harder. You have to follow some basic strategy. You have to read the NCERT chemistry textbooks inorganic portion very carefully, line by line. Nothing more than that is basically required for solving the inorganic questions, which are generally asked in NEET. They are directly asked from the NCERT. So read again and again the NCERT inorganic lines very carefully, and the most important points you can read on the blank space, as I have already mentioned. Then highlight them, again see, and solve the MCQs regarding previous year question. Thus, inorganic preparation is not so much hectic regarding NEET if you follow this strategy. Now comes to the organic portion. Organic portion is very much essential, because it carries a lot of marks in chemistry. Organic question has basically two parts. First one is the reactions, and second one is the name reaction. The reactions we generally tackle are basically based on the conceptual facts. So for this purpose, we have to practice the previous year question as much as possible, and make the note of the mistakes, highlight them, and then again practice them. And for the name reaction, we have to prepare a chart and paste it in front of your study table, and revise them again and again. And name reactions are very much essential, because they are directly asked, and a lot of questions are always asked from there, and marks can be easily collected from that portion. Now comes to the last subject, that is the physics. Although I discussed it in last, but it is not the last subject, because biology will definitely have to cross the limit of cutoff, but physics and chemistry are those subjects which will definitely determine your rank. So these two subjects are of much essence because this will determine your rank. So for physics, you have to solve the MCQs as much as you can. You have in the last 30 days, you don't have to practice the new sort of MCQs. You only have to focus the previous year questions which are generally asked in physics, because if you solve those problems, your confidence will be boosted and you can do a new sort of questions easily. And try to solve the previous year questions again and again, not a single time. If you have even do a tough question in a single approach, then still you have to again practice those MCQs, because by practicing repeatedly, you have always minimize the risk. The number of times you will repeat the number of times the mistakes will be minimized. So this is a basic rule you have to follow. So for physics, you have to practice a lot of MCQ as much you can. And there are some chapters in physics from where the questions are directly asked, and they are the memorization part. You can read them only from NCERT line by line, and questions are directly asked from that. You can easily crack those questions. So don't worry about this portion. You have to majorly focus the other major portion from where the questions are generally asked. So try to practice the problems as much as you can. Follow the previous year question trend from which chapters the questions are mostly asked. Give stress more and more on those chapters particularly, and try to practice a lot of MCQs in a day. And if the mistakes are generally happening, see them, try to separate them, and then revise them. And one much more essential thing in physics, that is the shortcuts. You have to determine the shortcuts very essential, because these shortcuts are the ultimate handy tools which will save your time. So for the shortcuts, you have to prepare a separate chart for the shortcuts. The shortcuts are not only regarding the formula, but also regarding the decimals and the powers, which are quite helpful in calculation. That will save your time and give you a proper answer. Because many times what happens, questions are asked, options are given, but the answers that are given, that are very close to each other in case of physics, like 99.992, 99.993, 99.994, like that. Many times such type of questions are asked. So for that particular calculation approach, we have to learn some basic approach regarding decimal calculation, regarding power calculation. So these are the shortcuts that we need. So in these last 30 days for physics, we have to practice a lot of previous year questions, and we have to revise all the sorts of shortcuts that we have, and try to apply those in case of solving those mathematical problems in physics. And lastly comes to the second part of the video, that what should be our strategy during the 3 hours of the exam in the exam hall. We have to first know that we have to ultimately fill the OMR. So in the last 30 days, while we try to practice MCQs, we always have to try to practice the MCQs in OMR sheet. OMR sheets are easily available on Google. Search them, download them, Xerox them, and make a lot of copies of Xerox. And then while practicing the MCQs, always try to fill the OMRs, because this will ultimately minimize your risks regarding mistakes, which is usually done by many of the students during the exam hall, during confusion or anything else. But to minimize these risk factors, we have to practice the MCQs on OMR sheet as much as you can. And during the 3 hours, time division is very much essential. I think you should approach for the biology for the first during the exam, and give maximum 45 to 50 minutes for the biology, and give about 40 to 45 minutes for chemistry, and you have to save about 1.5 an hour for the physics, because this is very much essential. More the time you have saved for physics, there should be higher rank that you will get, and higher marks you will get, and your rank should be good. But many students usually prefer to do physics, then chemistry, then biology. But this choice of solving the problems in exam, that is their own. But most of the students, or majority of the students, I think personally that they should approach biology for first, then chemistry, then physics. For biology, they have to spend about 40 to 45 minutes, or maximum 50 minutes. For chemistry, maximum 40 to 45 minutes, and about 1.5 hour for physics. And if they can follow this time plan, they will definitely crack the NEET. So for these last 30 days, you have to read by your own heart. You should give a genuine effort, genuine labor, so that you can crack your dream exam. So let's crack NEET 2023.